Rachael, welcome to the program.
Hello.
You've been a fashion designer, you've worked as a volunteer with the Israeli army, and you've been a nanny. What brought you to the streets of Vladivostok?
My passion for following after God. I was passionate about Israel and found out about an organisation working with the Russian Jews, and that's what got me to Russia in the very first place. And I ended up in Vladivostok and met up with a local church who invited me to come back and work with them.
Where is Vladivostok in Russia? Can you just pinpoint that?
It's in the Far East. It's a 9-hour flight from Moscow, 7 days and nights by train from Moscow. It's kind of situated between Japan and between China. It's the lowest point of Russia.
Population about?
800,000.
And very cold right now?
At the moment, about minus 20 degrees.
You work with street kids over there now. What was your first experience with a Russian street kid?
A child tried to pickpocket me. I was changing money downtown, and as I went to put my wallet back into the pocket of my coat, there was a hand in it, and I turned around to confront and there was a child there, about 8 years old, and he just had the biggest, emptiest, saddest eyes I'd ever seen. It just broke my heart, and I brought him some food. Couldn't talk to him, couldn't speak Russian at that stage, but that's kind of how it all started for me.
Was that a life-changing moment for you?
Absolutely. It was the most pivotal, life-changing moment I've ever had. It totally affected me, and I just went home that night and realised I had to do something to help kids like him. I had actually seen kids on the street before, I'd given them food before, but it was the first time it actually really touched me so deeply that I had to do something about it.
How do these children end up on the streets, Rachael?
A lot of it's alcoholism, abuse in the home environment. They leave home because it's safer on the streets than at home, or else there's no food at home. Often they're just abandoned. The parents have just left, gone to live with somebody else, and the other partner doesn't want the children, and they just get kicked out. I met one young girl, she was 15 years old, absolutely beautiful young child, and she ended up on the streets because her mother had brought a man home and forced the daughter to sleep with the man so the mother had money for her vodka. And so the girl ran away because the next night the mother brought another man home, so she ran away. And to me that was just horrific, that a mother would force her child into prostitution so that she'd have money for her drink. But I've seen lots of situations where it's the violence, the beatings and things like that in the home as well.
Usually alcohol-induced?
Mostly alcohol-induced, yeah.
What are the immediate needs of these children?
Immediate needs for a lot of the kids when we first meet them is medical care, nutrition, vitamins, clothing, just basic food, things like that, and for them to actually be loved and accepted. It takes a long time for a child that's come from that background to actually understand and accept what love is and to respond to it.
Unconditional love.
Absolutely unconditional love, yeah.
You run an organisation called Living Hope. You've been doing it for almost 12 years now.
12 years, yeah.
How does Living Hope meet the needs of those children?
We try to meet them holistically in every way, physically, emotionally, spiritually, educational, like the whole thing. We try to provide an avenue for every part of their lives to be changed and to function normally as you'd expect a normal child to function. How
easy is it to earn the trust of these children?
It's not easy. It takes a lot of time, especially with kids that have been well damaged. And it's a process, and it's, as you said, the unconditional love, just forgiving them whatever they do and just keep welcoming them back with open arms and letting them know that there's a safe place for them, providing that security.
And there'd be a language barrier, I guess. Can you speak fluent Russian?
I can speak enough Russian to get by with the kids. I wouldn't say it's fluent, but of course we've got the Russians, all the staff are Russian, so it's not a language barrier in the general sense. It's only when I'm involved, which unfortunately these days isn't a lot because I'm more involved in the admin and organisational things.
So can you paint a picture for us of you walking along the street and you see a little child and your heart goes out to that child? Tell us what you do next.
I just go up to him and just call him an affectionate greeting, just start talking to him and just, ask him if he's hungry and if he wants me to buy him some food and just sit with him. And often we'll then invite him to the shelter, because if you spend too much time with them on the first time, they start feeling intimidated. So I might walk away and let them come follow me if they want to, or say, want to come with me now, or just ask them if they know other kids, and if they know another kid then they'll realise that there's a affiliation there, and so trying to make a point of contact where they don't feel so scared.
What's your most rewarding success story to date?
There's actually a lot of them, and they're all so different. Even just one young kid, Andre, I will never forget the day I first got a hug out of him. I've been working with him for 2 years. When I first met him, I was handing out sandwiches on the streets, and he wouldn't even take a sandwich without cringing, because if my hand came out he'd think I was going to hit him. And after 2 years I had to leave because I had to get a visa, came back to Russia, and he saw me and he came up and he threw his arms around me, and then he realised what he had done and he just pulled back and stood away from me, and his face was shocked that he had done it, but just that there was his initial reaction was to hug me, and that to me is one of the things I'll never forget.
Do you get the support of the Russian government? How do you fund yourselves over there?
We get the support of the government, not with funding. We are there under invitation of the city government and the state government. They've invited us to do the work that we're doing, and they work with us on our projects, registrations and officially like that. Funding mostly comes from internationally. We do get a lot of Russian businesses donate things to us, food, clothing, medical things, vegetables, whatever we need gets donated locally. But it's most of the funding for paying the bills and the power and the electricity and the heating costs and all that comes internationally, mainly from New Zealand at the moment and a bit from America and England.
What are your greatest needs going into 2009?
We've purchased a building for a shelter for the kids, so we've got a place for them to live, and at the moment we're in the middle of renovating it. So our greatest needs are to finish the renovations, have builders come up, work with us voluntarily, and funding to actually buy the building supplies and actually get it ready for the kids to be able to move in.
So how can we help you in New Zealand if people are wanting to support Living Hope?
Well, as I said, anybody that can lift a hammer or lay some tiles or anything like that, we're always looking for volunteers to come in through and help us. Financially, of course, because it's always a need, because, especially as we get more and more kids living there, we have unofficially 12 kids living there at the moment, even though we're not finished. And, by the time you've got 12 kids, 24-hour care, food and clothing, the budget keeps growing. So it's always a financial need.
Rachael, thank you very much for joining us.